PD. It's gonna be 5 at the door. All right. All right, you're good. You go inside.
Good morning, everyone. I have Jonathan from Later Gator. Welcome. What's up, dog?
Just hanging in there, having a good time. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I got kind of a nice little sneak peek of this little thing that's happening on just a little 5 songs from the upcoming. It actually didn't give me the name of it. I just had the name of the songs.
Gotcha.
What is the name of this new thing that you all are doing? And let's kind of go through it.
What is this thing we have made? Yes. That the EP title is hard to say. That'll be the collection of 5 songs coming out.
It wasn't hard to say how awesome this record is. I will say that. The EP is really, really fun, front to back. It's just got like, I think it's pretty wide, in like the things y'all want to touch on, especially like, ranging from the punk stuff to almost like indie, The Cure style, like beats drum wise, and then like full on just like 2000s emo. Like it was really cool listen, because it just seemed like you guys wanted to stretch how far y'all are willing to go. You guys didn't just like focus on one thing. Y'all touched on a lot of elements. So like, let's kind of talk about like, tell me about this band. Like, where did y'all come from? How did y'all meet? And what was the kind of inspiration for the sound?
Yeah, we got actually kind of a funny start. There's a tape label in Bloomington, which is about an hour away from Indianapolis, where we're based out of, that every handful of years or so will do a band in a hat project where they'll put out like a Google form and you fill it out and say, I'm Jonathan and I play guitar. And then they put you in some randomly matched up band to play a one-off show kind of thing.
That's fun.
Yeah. So like I had never met Pugs, who's our bassist and lead vocalist, prior to this point. But then we just got thrown in like a group chat together and said, hey, you have a show booked for like 4 or 5 months from now. Put something together, see what happens. So the two of us met through that, and we had a few folks who were with us when the band first started there, who've moved away, and things kind of moved around a little bit since then. But that was how the two of us met, and then Brandon moved to Indianapolis a handful of months right at the same time that our old drummer had moved out, and so it worked out really well there. But yeah, so it was kind of a funny little thing. We didn't meet through having a whole lot of shared interest necessarily in the same style of music or anything, but just kind of a mismatch of, let's just make something happen out of all of this. So
that's really cool. There's this thing that I did, like, so I'm from Iowa. This reminds me of this thing. There's this a thing called a place called West Music, which was just like, it had like piano lessons, guitar lessons, drum lessons. It was just like a music shop. But they did this sponsored thing every year called Weekend Warriors, where you could sign up. And then like you'll meet every week for like a month, learn some covers with some people you're just placed together, and you come up with a band name, you learn 4 songs, and then you perform it wherever they've like got this like thing set up for you. I did it at like a Mexican restaurant, and it was, but I was also like 13, 14 doing this. And it was that was like my first shows that I played. So like you've kind of unlocked like a little memory of here. Did y'all come up with Later Gator through all of this, like the name and just like, or did you like that truly is the introduction of the band, is just kind of like being sent each other's numbers and said, okay, make a band now?
The band introduction was very much just being sent phone numbers, but we showed up at the first practice with the 4 or 5 of us, I think, from that group chat, and Pugs was ready to go. He was like, guys, I know what the perfect name is. I've had this one sitting around for a while. We're going to call ourselves Later Gator. And then 5 minutes later, we wrote our first song that's on that single we put out before. Like,
oh my God.
He came in and he was like, I know what's going to, I got it all taken care of. It's the whole plan. And he had the idea for that one.
Is that kind of the leader, the later leader of like, it's been kind of cool to hear like that this person just kind of knew exactly what to do.
It was a really great way to hit the ground running. All three of us definitely contribute pretty equally on the writing front, and Pugs has done the majority of vocals for us and is kind of frontman in that regard there. But it's a nice balance of how everything works there.
How long ago was this?
A year and a half, I think. So last
that's
last
cool.
summer.
Now, was this like, were you in bands before? Or is this your first band?
I've been in bands before, and all of us have been over the last couple of years. We're all in our mid-20s, and I think I'm actually the newest one to playing live music. I only started after the pandemic when shows got started back up there, but we've all been playing forever. Yeah.
What made you want to kind of dive into this whole thing? Because it's kind of like it's a dive into the deep end kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing that's like financially irresponsible, and like I just think that it's so cool to have this. I'm intrigued of like why you wanted to start.
Yeah, I have been playing guitar for a long time, but and always wanted to have a band. Had a few like sort of played some covers, didn't really do anything of it, kind of deal there. But I moved within Indianapolis a couple of years ago to an area that a Fountain Square kind of area within Indy that has a ton of live music venues around us. It's really like a great DIY centered spot within the city that otherwise doesn't have a ton of that going on. And so with having a bunch of things within walking distance, I was like, oh, let me go check out what's going on around here soon after moving. And when stuff was starting back up over the pandemic, and really just met some great people at local shows and seemed to find that like there was a really good community for that sort of thing. And it's been a kind of a rocky road of finding people that are interested in doing this like ridiculous, financially irresponsible thing of having a band, right? And so that's taken a while to find this really good group that I've got with Later Gator. But yeah, we've got a really good community of DIY music around here. That was what.
That's cool. I like that I haven't spoken to anybody from Minneapolis, I don't believe. So as like an Iowa guy, Minneapolis was kind of like, there's either, when you live in Iowa, when you want to escape Iowa, there's only two places that you have to like, you get like jumping off points. And that's either going to Minneapolis or you're going to Chicago. So like, I know a lot of people in Minneapolis, but there's a good like also EDM scene. There's a bunch of people that I knew that like teach school at like this thing called Slam Academy, where there's like they teach people how to like basically make drum and bass and jungle and all this stuff. My view of Minneapolis is that thinking that there was more of like that kind of scene, but I also have seen a lot of people that there's also a huge hardcore scene there as well. What would you say is like the cool part of like DIY in Minneapolis and how it's up north, even though it's that fucking cold all the time?
I'm realizing I should have enunciated a little better. I'm in Indianapolis in Indiana.
Oh my God, dude. Dog.
That's on me.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So Indianapolis. Okay.
Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis, tell me more about like the Indianapolis scene there, because I don't know anybody from Indianapolis.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're pretty centrally located to a bunch of things within a handful of hours radius, with Chicago and Detroit and Columbus and so many other great places being around there. So we get kind of an interesting set of folks coming through on tour and things, but we've got a really good DIY kind of a mindset with things here. And things have definitely fluctuated a little bit, even with over just the last few years of being involved in local music here. We had a really big hardcore and punk scene, and still definitely do to an extent. We haven't had near as many of bands breaking out and going on tour and things from that scene now as we have before. But there's a really good local community around heavier music. It's part of why I enjoy having some of those sorts of elements to a little bit of our live show. Like, none of us really in Later Gator listen to a ton of hardcore punk day in, day out. I guess Pugs will listen to some more like old school punk, but having that sort of live energy works out really well in a town that is particularly inclined towards that sort of live show sort of setting. But on top of that, I mean, we've got a good group of emo bands around here. Obviously, Summer Brews is from Indianapolis as well. absolutely love those folks in Summer Brews, and they also have this whole, I think we jokingly call it the Summer Brews cinematic universe of things. Just all of the bands are like, they're all in so many good bands around here, and great folks to play with. I bet like half of our shows have been with a member of Summer Brews in some capacity.
That's so funny. That's completely true. Like Summer Brews is known for it being like this super group anyways. So like they've been just involved in this scene for just so long that like that's so funny that like there's always like this the 7 steps away from Kevin Bacon, where it's just like how far what was everyone is 7 steps away or like 4 steps away from playing a show with one member of Summer Brews.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's pretty good. Would you say that like the DIY scene in that area, like how long have you lived in Indianapolis?
I grew up here, so
Cool.
yeah.
So you've gotten a good way of like seeing all of it, where like, do you think it's like exploded in the last 10 or like exploded in like the last 5?
I really think it's been pretty cyclical. I think there's been a lot of venues that have come and gone. Thankfully, the Hoosier Dome is one that's been a real staple around here. It's pretty rare to have a DIY venue last for 10 years, and they've been going steady since I was in high school.
That's pretty cool.
Which is, yeah, it's really neat there. So there's a few staples like that around here. But I think like with anything, like there is still just this a pretty consistent ebb and flow of live music as people move in and out and things go on there. I think there was a pretty big resurgence around local music within the last couple of years, really just post-pandemic, right? Like there was none of that for a while, and then a lot of folks got back into that. There's been a really good group of folks coming up through high school and college, and just like that younger crowd of people who are getting new bands started here, that we've got a good set of energy going on with the local scene for that.
That's cool. I like that there's a lot of foundational stuff when there's always like a place that's been around for at least 10 years. It just shows like how healthy the scene is. And that's really cool. Like there's in Nashville, I would probably look at like Dark Matter or Cobra that are the huge staples and like, not necessarily DIY, but just like the entry level places that you get to play at when you start a band. Like you don't get to, when you start the project, when you start any of this stuff, there's always this, you rehearse some songs and then you like have to start pitching yourself. What was it like for those first shows that y'all played, getting on? And was it through friends or did you guys just pitch and someone said yes? What was that like in the beginning?
Yeah, we do have a couple of funny experiences with shows before Brandon joined our band pretty soon into it, and really we've been cruising since then. We played that Band in a Hat show, and then a few weeks later I got an email to my old band's email from Andrea, who runs the Hoosier Dome, asking about us joining on an after party show for Sublime with Rome that was playing there. Yeah, I was like, that's odd, but okay. And it ended up being the weirdest show. Like the folks that it was the bassist from Sublime who wanted to do an after party thing, but wanted to be in an all ages space. But everybody who came through there was from the Sublime show and was just absolutely hammered drunk and was upset that there wasn't a bar at this all ages show. And we ended up playing it once at 9 p.m. and then their band went on at midnight, and there was a 2-hour gap, but then it was just us and the venue host hanging out together with no one else in the venue. It was the weirdest thing.
Whoa, that's so. So 2 things. One, shout out the dude wanting to do it at an 18 plus like place.
Right.
That's chill as hell. But it sounds like there was like what's the phrase when your hunger is bigger than your mouth or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember like exactly what that phrase is, but I felt like this person wanted this thing to happen and just could not make it work.
Yes, they very much had a vision for like, let's get a whole all ages community out here. Let's get everybody involved and really have a great kind of community moment. And then it didn't quite pan out to be that, but it was a really good story and a funny one to look back on. But
especially for like the beginning too, like that's like a really, really cool way to like say to kind of develop those memories with your band, where it's starting to feel like a second family, where you're like, yeah, we remember that really crazy thing that we did.
Yes, very much so.
Now, so y'all have this new thing coming out. And so kind of tell me what's y'all's plans for the next year. I feel like there's a lot of when you start a band and it's like a year and a half in, there's always a moment where it feels like everyone just kind of has blinders on, where you're just moving forward and no end in sight, just like we're just going to keep going just to keep going. So like, are you all still in that phase, or are y'all trying to chunk out the next couple of years and what everything looks like?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been pretty laser focused on getting this EP out, and we've had a handful of shows over this last couple of months that we've been working hard on. I think we haven't been looking super far ahead, unfortunately, as a result of that. But yeah, definitely we've got a handful of songs we're still looking to work out, as far as even looking to the next release. But as far as what do we do once this EP is out, I think it would be ideal to move beyond indie a little bit. We've played a lot of great shows here in Indianapolis. We've moved within kind of that hour radius of indie, but we've got a lot of friends who've come through from Chicago and Columbus and Detroit and places around nearby. I think we're going to start looking at slowly but surely expanding the radius of where all Later Gator is played, and get some new ears on our music there.
I think there's always kind of like the first 2 years are like play as much as you fucking can. And then after that, it's like, okay, cool. We cut our chops, like, or we cut our teeth, like on, these entry level spaces, these mid level spaces, if we've got to play them. Do you see yourselves booking like your first tour next year?
I think we'd ideally like to do that. The tricky thing is always just everybody's work schedules and things, right? We're all working full-time jobs, and like our bassist is moving between things and starting up a career and doing an apprenticeship on things there. So like we got a lot going on that side of things. It makes it hard to do all that. But.
Now, do you find that those moments do they kind of solidify what everyone wants from the band? In that aspect, where like, hey, yes, we're all super busy, but because we all still kind of want this, that kind of lifts up the band even more in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it's one where we all are pretty well on the same page about what we're looking for, and just kind of trying to make that happen. And yeah, it's also definitely still one where we really enjoy playing shows within Indianapolis. Like we've got a great set of local bands around here, and we've had fantastic experiences playing with folks coming in from out of town. Yeah, we are nowhere near the spot where we'd want to avoid overplaying our hometown or anything like that, right? Like we are very much so like, if any bands coming through indie, hit us up. We'd love to open for you, kind of thing.
I love that. And I think there's like sometimes there's expectations where like it all depends on what you want. And I think everyone has an individual view of like what they want from like their project, where like, hey, I'm trying to check a bunch of certain boxes off. Like, oh, I want to make, a CD from a release, or I'm looking for cassettes or vinyl, or I'm trying to play this specific venue. Or like, what would you say, like personally, is like one of your boxes that you're trying to check with this band?
Yeah, one of the joke answer that we always come back to if anybody asks this one is before we had Brandon officially in the band, our drummer, he bounced around and interviewed with a couple of bands around here, one of which turned out to be a group of like 16 to 18-year-olds or whatever, who were convinced they were going to make it famous. They were sights set on like they are going to be the biggest band in the world, and he was asking them kind of about things. They're like, we put a lot of thought into it, and we're going to get famous, but we're still going to have fun with it. That's our primary goal, and like they had rehearsed like once or twice, but they were convinced that we're going to get famous, but still have fun with it. And we always joke that that's our one deal. More like realistically, it's just it's really enjoyable to create something that people resonate with, and to make something that we feel proud of and that we know that other folks vibe with as well, and that means something to them. We're already starting to have a few folks that are showing up to shows and like singing along to things with us, and like clearly get it and like it, and that means the world to me. Like the fact that whatever silly music we come up with means something to people, and enough to resonate with it that way is the biggest thing.
I think that there's like, after being on stage is a little intoxicating, and like, is that something that you're chasing? To like, hey, I want more people to be singing along. Like, what would you say is like the reason that keeps you going to band practice every week, or, I want this to happen every time, or these are the goals that I'm looking for continually to doing this like kind of project?
Yeah, I think that is a really big part of it. Like a big part of what got me into wanting to be in a band and put the effort in for all of this was having such positive experiences at live shows, getting to see the bands that I liked, big or small, and play fantastic shows. And I'll joke that getting to see Summer Brews regularly and singing along with everybody around here to all of their songs is something that's just like feels so good for my mental health. Like,
yeah,
that is just this so uplifting experience. And there's been so many of those times where people make fantastic music, they play it really well live, and getting to be surrounded by other folks who are feeling that same feeling is huge. And so if we get to be in that same following in such great footsteps of making good music and having people get such a positive experience out of that live or on their own or whatever. But really the live show experience is a big part of what drew me to it.
Awesome. Well, so let's talk about kind of the record that, this little EP that you're going to bring out. Let's kind of go through inspiration stuff. Well, what were y'all listening to while you were writing this record?
We've got a fairly wide-ranging music taste. I think all of us have kind of found common ground within pop punk and emo over the last 20, 30 years of music there. And so a lot of DIY emo is kind of the overlapping section, the Venn diagram between all of us, right? Mm-hmm. But Pugs definitely brings much more of a pop punk influence, and even like an older style. Like we did a cover show a while back, and he was really like pushing for, let's get some Dag Nasty or some other like old like 80s hardcore punk kind of a thing on the bill. And then Brandon has a very wide ranging music taste. He loves fun and a handful of other like more indie rock stuff, really just all over the place. And I think in general, that sort of wide ranging music taste is something that kind of plays into here,
I can see, who's the person that has the 80s, not the 80s thing, but like the indie, like fun thing.
That's Brandon, our drummer. Yes.
Okay. I was just going to say, because listening to this, there is definitely like that indie, off hi-hat, lots of hi-hat. Like there's these moments that are very indie focused, very like almost a little, late 2000s, early 2010, like, Two-Door Cinema Club kind of style of like drumming. So like,
oh, nice. Yeah.
There's this, so it's really cool to like, obviously with like halftime emo stuff, like which is all just classic, but like you could tell like there's this different kind of vibe of, in the songs that like, that he's pulling from, or they're pulling from, like that specific scene, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Like, I was like, I wonder if someone's kind of figured, like, I wonder if I'm getting this right, because that's what I was hearing from the drummer side, is like this weird indie thing. That's so cool.
Nice. Yeah. And then, yeah, I'll listen to a whole variety of stuff there. And I think, it's been interesting. Emo is most of what I've listened to over the last while, but I've been going through a variety of phases. I listened to a lot of rap for a while, and to try to pull in some sort of rhythmic elements from that into things. Grew up, I think actually all of us grew up playing music in church in like middle school and high school and things, and just kind of have that sort of praise and worshipy background. Although I've ditched the reverb pedals. We've moved beyond that. Don't need any more of that sort of thing.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think there's a very famous tweet from Keegan from Camp Trash, where you can look at your pedalboard and see if you were ever in a worship band. Which
yeah,
I think about that all the time.
I still have an ambient reverb pedal holding onto the board. I haven't managed to kick it fully off there yet, but
I mean, it's a good pedal. So like, there's like, there's when it comes to like reverb stuff like that, it's like there's always I feel like in emo there needs to be more reverb pedals, like more fuzz, more reverb, and I think that it's starting to come back. I think that there's going to be a resurgence. So that's really cool.
I like bands like 10 Months Summer has a nice kind of like shoegaze vibe going in.
I love them so much. Those are those are my boyfriends. Like that's like
the best people.
They're the best people. If our band had a significant other, it would be 10 Months Summer. But then we would also be a 3-way with Buddy Bench. Just love them all forever. So super excited for this entire thing. The 5 songs are like front to back, just like great. You're expanding on a lot of really, really cool things. You're playing with a lot of cool ideas. Now, I kind of want to dive into the other half of what I think makes music like this so great is basically the lives that everyone lives outside of music. So what do you do for your day job?
I'm a software engineer. I work for a health insurance startup that is trying to make it so that health insurance actually pays for things for people and helps them get healthier.
Hey, that's
wild concept.
That's based as hell, dog. That's so sick. Did you get a bachelor's in this, or did you do a boot camp before you dived in?
I actually got a bachelor's in electrical engineering, and then have slowly but surely introduced more programming into my jobs over jumping through things. And now I'm full software. The only electronics I'll do is for stuff like the amp and pedals in the background. I got
so you're the Holdex to repair, like when it comes to anything inside of y'all's equipment. That's pretty really sick.
Love tinkering with all that, yes. And I'm tempted to sometimes just to bring a soldering iron along with me to shows and things. And there are times that people have like, oh, the jack broke on my guitar or whatever. Like, we need more soldering irons around.
I think so too. I think there's something fun about like being the guy that can like repair your stuff on the road. There's something very Oregon Trail about it that is very, very cool in my head. I absolutely love that. But that's so cool. What does everyone else in the band do?
Yeah, so Pugs is currently working for the Call Before You Dig folks, but is apprenticing soon to be an electrician. So cool. He'll be in the same kind of sparky boat there. And then Brandon actually is the casting director for 2K Games. And
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so cool. Love talking about all that.
That's very, very cool because you don't think a lot about the concept of casting when it comes to like voice acting or even mocap. So like that's just really, really interesting.
Yeah, we're trying to convince Pugs to not forego music, to add to music things into being voice actor. He's so good at that sort of thing, which like plays into his vocal chops there as well. But if you ever need an impression of anything, Pugs has got it. So we're trying to make something happen with all that.
That's really cool. I had no idea that 2K had like a big office or one of their main offices in Indianapolis. So that's kind of interesting.
They don't actually. Both Brandon and I work remotely.
Oh, so, cool. Oh, that's really, really exciting. Well, same here. So I feel like that. Actually, here's a good question. Do you think that the remote work is more conducive for bands than ever before? Or do you think that still people, it's more beneficial if you wanted to do the band thing to do like the bartending thing where, hey, I'm going to take 6 weeks off and then I'll come back, or I'll just use my PTO for my remote job, or I'm going to work in the van. Like, what would you say is like the modern way to do bands and work at the same time?
That's a good question. We haven't had an experience with going on long tours or anything yet to say for sure. Like, I don't quite know if I'd be able to work from the van effectively with everything there and do that. But like, so many remote jobs also come coupled with pretty decent PTO and things like that are helpful. But it definitely, working remotely has made it so much easier for me to be flexible with playing local shows and things that like I can dip out and like I'm able to go straight from my house to the venue that's right nearby, right? So that makes it very easy from that standpoint. And then also the number of times that I'll have like a 10-minute gap between meetings and can just pick up my guitar and keep up with things there. Like that's been super helpful to be able to just make music a more frequent part of my life than I would have if I was working in an office 9 to 5.
Totally. Yeah, I think I've been kind of intrigued of like, when is it going to break where, we don't, I think like, the one person that I see tweeting about it all the time is the guys from Carpool, where they'll talk about their bartending shifts and like, they'll talk about like the shitty thing that happened to work. And I'm like, there are still people that do like this old thing, which is, yeah, I'm a bartender and then I go on tour, and then I'm a bartender and I go on tour. But I've been doing remote for close to, 5 years now. And I find that I think it just works especially if you can like actually work on a computer and you don't need like, do you need like a screen that's turned on its side? Like to see like, are you front end or back end?
I'm a back end guy.
Okay, cool. So
I've got my ultra wide still ultra wide. It's not ultra tall. So
you can always tell in the office where the engineers are, where someone's decided to turn theirs 90 degrees.
I've tried it before, but never vibed with me.
Maybe it's just because I think you can see just like, it depends on like what, how you're viewing your code. So like, some places, it would work better in landscape versus fucking portrait. So like, that's really, really fascinating.
I work on a Java related language. So we got the like 200 character line long.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
You gotta see the long class names and everything.
That's great. I like that. Well, listen, I'd like to play a song of y'all's. So would you want to play something from the new EP?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
What song would you like to hear?
So the one that we have not actually played live of the 5 on there is That's So Craven. The other 4 we've played before, but
that's the big closer, man. Like it is like an incredible song. So also shout out to the Calvin and Hobbes reference in the beginning with Spaceman Spiff. That is like very, very, very cool. So here is That's So Craven from Later Gator.
I crept through your garden, hoping I would feel at ease, being out here amongst something that I know had brought you peace. And I promise I've been trying to do it like you showed me, but I have been rejected by its leaves. I'd said it more, 'cause I have this awful feeling that you died feeling ignored. And it's so fucking typical, while everybody grieves, I find a way to make it about me. So was it hard to say goodbye and have to do so with a brave face, while the people you look up to cry and wish they could take your place? Did that make you feel loved, or did it just make you feel guilty? That's enough, I'm not ready to know. Without was it hard to say goodbye? You have to do so with a brave face, while the people you look up to cry and wish they could take your place. Did that make you feel loved, or did it just make you feel guilty? That's enough, I'm not ready now. So was it hard to say goodbye? You have to do so with a brave face, while the people you look up to cry and wish they could take your place. Did that make you feel loved, or did that just make you feel guilty? That's enough, I don't ever wanna know.
Awesome. That was That's So Craven from Later Gator. Dog, thank you so much for hopping on and doing this with me. Glad that we could finally meet and like really dive into the stuff here. So just have a wonderful rest of your day. And I promise I won't do a podcast in the dark ever again, where I look like I'm some crypt creeper. This is hilarious.
Daylight savings time got you. Yep.
It really did. It really did. All right. Well, listen, you have a wonderful rest of your night. Okay.
Thanks. You too.
Take
See ya.
care.